It would be very weird because I feel like these games are made for the Switch in so many ways.
I will say, let's say PlayStation publishes it. That does not mean it's not going to be on Switch.
SpongeBob, Johnny Bravo kicking by the beach bar, TJ making.
Welcome back to
Bikini Bottom Inquirer.
Bikini Bottom Inquirer. I didn't forget what it was. I am not tired and running off of Monster. You don't know my life.
You're on that monster, the white monster energy. You're part of that crowd. Wow. What were we saying? What was the slogan? The one-stop shop for...
The one-stop shop for goo was before.
Yeah. That's what I think that's what we're going for. Yeah.
Yep.
So
welcome back to the
episode,
Bikini Bottom Inquirer, your one-stop shop for goo. Sorry, I talked over you.
No, you redo it. Wait, no, third time's a charm. Go on.
Welcome back to Bikini Bottom Inquirer, your one-stop shop for watching Chester drink coffee or whatever the frick that was.
Out of a SpongeBob mug.
I have.
Typo, sponsor us. Typo, please.
I have this.
He has the power of electricity in his hands.
I have the power of God and anime on my side.
So today, what are we doing? What are we doing today?
Today we're going to be talking. We kind of like. I don't know. I don't want the topic to be too vague. We're kind of just going to speculate and discuss the future of SpongeBob games as a franchise. Because we know some stuff that's coming. And maybe we have some stuff that we want to happen that will never happen.
We did this, 2 years ago for Cosmic Shake, and we're doing this again. But what's interesting this time, you were looking through it before, a vast majority, so there's a new game coming out by Purple Lamp, who's made the past two SpongeBob games, the two best ones, realistically. More or less the entire design document, you were saying, has been leaked.
Well, like, not just one. Like it looks like all their files, basically, like all their development files, basically.
There's an early cover art, there's all the stuff we were chatting about before, and I was like zooming in and going full graphic designer. That's a perfect vector file. There's no way that's fan made. That's this and this.
It's maybe not everything. It's
close.
It's a lot. Like concept art, multiple design documents. I probably shouldn't have this on my computer. I'm going to be hunted down by the FBI.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to show any of it either.
No,
for like, I don't know if people have been posting this online.
And that's the thing is, I don't know. I don't want to ruin any potential any potential relationship we could have with THQ Nordic.
Yeah, that's very true. I like THQ Nordic. I love Purple Lamp. Please forgive us. Everyone's talking about this. We're not going to talk about it too much. We're not going to talk about the document because also I'm not looking at the document.
I don't even know if we should say the name, honestly. Because I don't even know how many people know about it based on, like I was telling you earlier, I was talking to, forgive me if I say your name wrong. I think his name was Blue Knight, the 2.0. I don't know what happened to Blue Knight 1.0 or 1.5.
Blue Knight's dead. He's not coming back.
He only just discovered these leaks.
Yeah.
And I was kind of... He had randomly tweeted about, like, trying to find out when Revenge of the Flying Dutchman was first announced. And I was like, I just started vomiting information out.
Pushed up your glasses.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Actually.
I was like, well, here we go. And then I sat there and had a conversation with him through Twitter for, like, a good hour. Just like, well, this happened, and that's this, and I think probably this, and it was all because he found these leaks recently, and he's working on a video about it. But
yeah, because it's that same speculation that happened last time, because obviously the first game was a remaster of Bikini Bottom. The second one, the big kind of consensus that I started, was that it was a spiritual successor to Creature from the Krusty Krab, which it was.
In a lot of ways, yes, it was.
In a lot of ways it was. Because that was the whole comment of just like, they'll never make something like Creature from the Krusty Krab again.
It almost felt like kind of like they took... I remember playing it and thinking it like even had elements that reminded me of like the pitch document for Creature from the Krusty Krab, like the 40 winks or whatever. I was like, did they look at that document and take ideas, or is it just a coincidence? I don't know. But yes, I would say it had a lot of DNA of Creature. It also had a lot of DNA of Battle for Bikini Bottom. It was almost like they took those two games and kind of smashed them together.
Yeah, and so now the debate is that this one is inspired by Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, which I severely doubt for the reason that it is still the most hated SpongeBob game of all time. So I doubt they would be like, let's take inspiration. It's like coming out and being like, I'm going to take inspiration from the second SpongeBob movie for this next game. We're going full hero pants with it.
No, thank you.
Like,
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say I could sit here and have a debate about this with you. I don't know if it's the most hated, but
well, we do live in a world with hero pants. That is true.
And like Super Sponge, I feel like some people look back at it fondly, but a lot of Super Sponge is not a great game. I don't know if you've ever played Super Sponge.
All of the DS like 2D versions are terrible.
Music of the music from I'm talking about the PS1 side scroller. The music, phenomenal. I used it in my video because it was just that good. But like, if you actually sit down and play it, it's not good. And even the developers hated it because you look in the files and they're like putting naughty things in the SpongeBob game files. And
also, didn't Nickelodeon, weren't they really disappointed with it too? That was part of the stuff that came into all the just spoilers for your video.
I was about to say, yes, that's information that is revealed in my. I guess it's revealed now. No,
just a little hint as the stuff.
Nickelodeon and THQ were. I don't know how it would be. I don't know if they were angry or just disappointed, like the parent. Like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed that you made this horrible game. They were not happy with Super Spawn.
Well, it shut down, and not to step on your toes too much on like what you're doing, but it seemed that it shut down the concept of doing a 2D game entirely.
Sort of. It was always supposed to be a 3D platformer, but kind of we're getting into territory of my video. One of the concepts that sorry if my cat keeps meowing. One of the concepts that one of the designers for Revenge of the Flying Dutchman came up with was more of like a Klonoa style, like 3D, 2D, like kind of like a combination of things, like where
Have
it's
you seen
on
the
rails.
Yellow Avenger for the PSP?
Yeah,
similar to that was my mind.
Yeah, I would say so. The developer referenced games like Super Magnetic Neo and Adventure of Cookie and Cream, 2 games that I've never played. I think they were Dreamcast games when I looked it up. But just like kind of chill out.
Stop podcasting. Stop.
He's scratching the crap out of my leg now. Like a combination, like a 2.5D kind of game with 3D elements, but we're on rails, and kind of like there were moments in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman that were kind of like that, with like
the running away
on
from
rails
the ship and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, some of that DNA was in there, but he wanted it to be very, like, the gameplay was maybe a little bit more simple and like heavily like he wanted it to be Mario Galaxy compared to like Mario Odyssey, where one is very linear and designed very tightly, and the other is
That's
very
a good comparison.
open.
Yeah. Here's my question. So obviously we made it clear that they base what happens with the next one on kind of the feedback they got from the previous. That's what's kind of made clear from that. We had Super Sponge, and that affects the development.
Right. It was kind of just determined that they wouldn't have approved they wouldn't have given them the contract for the game. It wasn't a strong idea because they'd worked with 2D stuff and it didn't go super well. So yeah.
So then with this one, for Cosmic Shake, just a little bit of background for that. Quite review-wise, in the grander scheme by the larger media, it reviewed very similarly to Bikini Bottom. On like an individual basis, it reviewed a lot higher. There's still quite a big divide when it comes to the fans on the perception of Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Cosmic Shake reviewed a little bit better. Yeah, I think we are the demographic of divided.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people would maybe agree with me, but I mean, a lot of the people who were excited for that game and played it, they'd never played the original. They were not alive, so they're like, oh, this is great.
That's true, because didn't it sell more than the original? It sold like 2 million copies.
It did very well. There's a reason they did more.
And then Cosmic Shake, I believe, only sold around 600,000. I believe was the number.
I didn't
pay sold significantly lower.
Close attention.
That's why I was very surprised that they were doing a third. So my wondering here is what they're going to be doing differently advertisement-wise, because they advertise Cosmic Shake awfully
it seems like they have more time based on what I gather.
They announced Cosmic Shake within a year of Rehydrate coming out, and then there was another year before we got anything, which was really weird. They haven't done that this time. It's been, nearly 2 years since Cosmic Shake now?
Yeah, and they teased this game, but they haven't I mean, we
know it now.
But, like, I'm wondering, because part of the problem, this has always been a problem with Nick games, but especially in the last decade. Very low budget, very little time to finish the game. Some people do better with the budget and the time frame than others. Rugrats Royal Ransom compared to Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, it's like content has to be cut at the last minute, but there's like Revenge of the Flying Dutchman was originally a completely different game. That's all I'll say. Plot wise, content wise, it was supposed to have it ended up being like less than half of what was planned. And a lot of that's just because of budget and time constraints. And I think that's been the case with most Nickelodeon games, is like they have this plan and then they get into it and they're like, oh, we can't do it. Like, and especially with the more recent ones, Nicktoons or Nickelodeon Kart Racer 1, 2, 3, however many they've made now. All Stars Brawl, like all these games, like...
No, I shouldn't say that. I got that for free. I love that game.
They're not given...
Car Racers, I got a review copy for that too. I love that game.
They're not given the budget or the time they deserve. I mean, they don't even want to let you pay for, like... They don't give you the money to pay for voice actors with some of these games. They finally started doing that again with the SpongeBob games, at least.
Dude, that was insane. That was an insane period. That 2018 to kind of like 2020 period of like, you're not even getting your voice actors. You understand these characters are their voices. That's all they are.
Right. And I get into a lot of that.
They're in the other room. They're in the other room recording SpongeBob right now. Get them in and record the line.
There's a lot of, I think, politics behind it as well. I imagine Clancy Brown is probably not nearly as expensive as he used to be. There's a reason he was not in Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's still kind of a mystery how he even ended up in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Secrets. Whisper. I know some things. He was not supposed to be in that game. I don't know how he ended up in that game.
I wonder if it's a union thing, like a voice actor union thing.
It's more just some of the voice actors are more expensive than others, and he was more expensive.
How could Clancy Brown be more expensive than SpongeBob?
I don't know why he was, but he was. And there, same with Mermaid Man, and that's why he was cut, is because he was more expensive than the others.
That's what I mean, is because those guys are older, perhaps they were part of unions that they had higher bargaining rights, and so they were more expensive for that.
That's possible. I don't know.
Because they're both, those both guys are older than the rest of the ones.
Yeah,
I don't know so much about America, but here in Australia, there's different unions for like. My friend was in a play recently, and there were some older guys in there that were part of unions, and they were a lot more like I'm a big union guy, but they were a lot more difficult to deal with because they knew their rights, and so they were constantly fighting with the actual like organizers of it. Of like, no, we need this break at this time because that's our legal right is to have this break between these shows, and that created a lot of tension. But, like, you know, they knew what they were worth and they were, like, fighting that. Maybe that entirely debate, but there's a reason, like, they're two of the older guys who aren't in these games consistently. Maybe, old people usually.
I don't know, and I'm not super familiar. I just know there's, like, an actors guild. I don't know if that's the only actors union out here. But, like, there was all the strikes and stuff a year or two ago where, like... everything got thrown behind because of like AI and being underpaid and all sorts of stuff. So I don't know how that works as far as like voice acting versus normal acting versus whatever. But the point was that the voice acting is weird in these games, and they didn't want to pay the actors. Clearly, they just wanted you to make the game without them talking at all, and that was not good. And I'm glad that Cosmic Shake bucked that trend. I don't know.
So you're saying that you've had some evolving opinions with Cosmic Shake. How have your opinions kind of changed?
Yeah, I've talked about that.
I was outside of that conversation a lot. I came in like a year late, dropped to like an hour-long video, and then I left again. I didn't
that was the thing is opinions. I picked it up, played it for a couple hours, and I was like, I don't really like this. Part of it was, new voice acting. Tom Kenny does. I don't know if it's just in that game. I don't think it's just in that game. He does not sound like he used to. Like his SpongeBob voice has changed. And as someone who mostly consumes older SpongeBob content, it was very jarring. It was hard to get used to. And it kind of took me out of the whole experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I cannot. This is someone who I love season 6 through to 8. I love it. I'm not part of that whole ScumBob, hate that era. I cannot stand season 10 onwards. I cannot do it. It is the most ADHD, TikTok brain, overstimulation bullshit. It is unwatchable.
I think it started... I only say I've not really sat down and watched it. I'm only saying it based on clips that I've seen go viral. I think it started to come around and have it has some moments now, I think, based on what I've seen. At the same time, it's become incredibly self-referential, which SpongeBob was never that in the beginning. Like, they brought back Bubble Bass briefly where he shows up in the movie theater that one time or whatever, but it's like... Now the show is bringing back, they're always bringing back Bubble Bass. They brought back the old chocolate, like they're always bringing back these old, they're like, hey, remember that joke and that character that we did decades ago?
Remember when you were happy?
Yeah. They brought back, like, in Camp Coral, Nosferatu is a character. It's like, remember that throwaway thing that we did with Nosferatu, which I heard wasn't even supposed to be the actual ending. They kind of had to change it at the end or something, so they just threw that in.
It always confused me. It's just like, remember when we were funny? And I was like, yeah, right,
exactly.
I could go watch that.
It's become self-referential, and it still has its moments where it's genuinely funny for its own sake. But a lot of times it's just like, hey, remember?
Yeah. But yeah, I get that on the voice acting. That could be quite jarring because I'm still in that space a little bit. Like, I try and catch an episode here or there, see what it's like. So I'm used to Tom Kenny's season 8, season 9, season 10 voice, but I definitely guess that would be jarring.
And I feel like, I watched some of those later seasons, and I still don't think it was nearly as pronounced as it is to this day. I don't know. But it was just like, I was like, I had to make sure Tom Kenny was even voicing SpongeBob. I remember Googling it. I was like, did Tom Kenny do the voice of SpongeBob in this game? I couldn't imagine he didn't, but it genuinely didn't sound like him to me.
Yeah, and I could definitely assume they're probably also doing a lot more effects and stuff to his voice. Like, I've seen some clips of him, like, on radio shows where he suddenly starts doing the voice or stuff like that, just, like, on his phone or, like, whatever microphone they have. And even that, like, he sounds different to a produced episode. Like, they're changing the pitch. They're doing stuff like that.
And that's the other thing in the actors. They're self-referential. They're like... It's kind of like the Office cast. You said you never watched The Office, but the Office casts are just kind of like, remember all these, we were on The Office, remember all this thing. I feel like even the SpongeBob cast are like, they just kind of repeat memes to people. Like I've heard Tom Kenny, he's always saying that I'm gonna head out. Like, he's just like, they just narrate their own meme. They've given into the meme culture, which could be a whole episode. Yeah. But another thing about the game was, we've had this conversation before, off camera and on camera. Creature from the Krusty Krab was not my favorite SpongeBob game. Yep. Like, the 3D platformer specifically. I played the DS version growing up, and I liked it for what it was. But when I went and sat down and played Creature from the Krusty Krab for that video, I'd never played it before that video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was asked to cover that game, and I was like, I guess I'll see what I can find. And because I found that dev document, I was like, well, I gotta do this now. So I did it. And it was fine. It's not a bad game. It's just, it felt very... I was used to the Battle for Bikini Bottom movie style, where there's a lot of different... It's kind of
very
more
clean,
open,
tight, and
right. Yeah,
even just the movements
it's
very
linear,
clean and
but
tight.
Still, you're like looking for things. It was a little bit more open. Whereas Creature from the Krusty Krab, it was doing a lot of different things, and also the platforming was like, the worlds were very open and empty, and they felt a little bit more bland to me personally. Where it was like, I felt like I was
like a De Blob game or something like that.
I felt like I was breaking boxes just for the sake of breaking boxes. I don't, like I said, I don't hate it, but it wasn't my favorite. And Cosmic Shake definitely felt very Creature from the Krusty Krabby in its linearity, for one.
Okay, yeah.
Which, again, Battle for Bikini Bottom is linear, but something about it felt different. I don't know.
That's true. There's only really 3 or 4 big platforming segments in Cosmic Shake, to my memory. It is mostly more of that kind of movement from one area to the other. It's less
at least when you're following the story. I mean, those worlds are... as I got to play
there's some different bits, yeah.
It is very open. Like, there's a lot of, like you can explore that world and just have a good time, honestly. But... I didn't fully grasp that at first.
Well, yeah, if you're playing the first few hours, the Wild West area is a lot of those horse segments.
Yeah, I like the idea of the Wild West.
Horse segment to a town, horse segment to like that type of thing. So it would feel that way.
I liked the idea of the Western world. I like the entire idea of them kind of taking these worlds that were in Battle for Bikini Bottom and like giving them a what if spin, like Wild West, Jellyfish Fields, Pirate Goo Lagoon, or whatever it was. I haven't actually finished the game yet. I need to go back and finish it. But the other thing that I did not like was the combat, like the enemies. Like,
really?
And the problem was I didn't get deep enough into it the first time. I remember feeling like the robot, like fighting the robots felt very like punchy and clean. Like there was always like vibrations, and it was always satisfying to clunk them. And the blobby jelly people felt very floaty, and I didn't feel like my actions were necessarily in my control, and it felt kind of pointless. Like I was just hitting them and they disappear. It felt kind of, but as you get into it, and like it felt too easy, and it felt pointless. But as you get into it, it gets harder. Like there's more options for enemies, and like the more they throw at you, more strategy comes out, especially in the boss battles in that game. The boss
also
battles
some of the
boss
battles are great. But also some of the segments, like in Pirate Goo Lagoon, there's a segment where you have to be fighting enemies, jumping across buildings, doing these pinpoint accurate platformings just to get one of the like collectibles. If you wanted to 100% it, just to get one of these, while also things are being shot through the air and like landing on you. I was like, this is the most.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Brain melting moment. I spent because I 100%ed it. I was like, I probably spent to 100%. It probably took me like 15 hours. Probably a third of that time was that mission. Was just doing that bit over and over and over and having to get so precise with it.
Like I said, as I got deeper into it, I started to appreciate it more. The movie one with the karate movie or whatever, the movie set, Downtown Bikini Bottom or whatever. That one was very linear, but it also was like, I was like, this is like giving me major like comic book superhero Patrick from Creature from the Krusty Krab vibes.
But also the movement got so improved in that.
Right, yeah, it was done better, and but like I said, that boss fight was genuinely hard for one, but for two, it was designed really well, like with Sandy.
Oh yeah, and then redoing it for the 100% without taking any damage.
Oh geez, I haven't gotten that far. No, thank you.
It's the only game I've ever 100%ed. I've 100%ed it twice now. I was just like,
I mean, I've done all the SpongeBob games, I think.
Have you?
Maybe not movie, like all the ones I played. I mean, I definitely have. Yeah, I've 100% in Battle for Bikini Bottom multiple times. I 100%.
So you're coming back around to it a bit more.
Yes, I was gonna just say real quick. I 100%ed Kingdom Hearts 2. Don't do that. That game was.
That sounds like a time commitment.
It took me literal years. Anyways, so I came back around to it, and now I don't know whether I'm excited or not for the new one.
All right.
I feel like I've come back around to like I don't know what to expect. When they first teased the new one, we can't talk about the tease because that's public information. They turned in ghosts, and it was clear that the Flying Dutchman was involved, and that's why people are kind of making the comparisons of, oh, this is going to be a spiritual successor to Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I mean, sure, the Dutchman's involved. Maybe he's the villain of the game, but that doesn't necessarily, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that.
It would be an interesting choice to be like, we're going to base ourselves off this game specifically, when there's heaps of good episodes where like that happens, like the is it Shanghai? Whereas like they're probably basing off that more than anything, where they join the crew.
And that's part of the thing is people don't like a lot of what Revenge of the Flying Dutchman was trying to do was just base it off of the plots of episodes. And then it kind of got out of hand as it went. So I don't know. Obviously the Dutchman's involved, and making him the main villain is interesting. I don't feel like how often is he even in the show anymore? I don't even know.
Anymore? I don't know, but I think he's only in like 5 episodes of the original series. Like, he's very minor.
I don't remember what his first appearance was. Was Shanghai before the untying the shoes when he shows up? I don't remember.
Wait, wasn't his first appearance Scaredy Pants?
Was it? Okay, now I have to look. What is...
Well, no, it can't have been, because Revenge of the Flying Dutchman was advertised on the Scaredy Pants original DVD.
Yeah.
So it would have to have been before that. Just pulling out the deep cuts. Just pulling out the deep lore here.
Well, that's the thing is, like, SpongeBob started calling back to itself. Whereas, like, early on, it's like, they would act like they've never met the Flying Dutchman the 3 times that he shows up.
Mermaid Man, Barnacle Boy. Wow.
Oh, it does say Scaredy Pants was his first appearance.
Scaredy Pants was the first. Okay.
Huh.
Well, I guess the DVD would be releasing after.
Right, it probably came out way later.
Also DVD, not VHS. So, different thing again. Yeah. Well, for me, my opinion on Cosmic Shake, I loved it from the moment I played it. I did get a review copy of it as well. So I'll just chuck that out there. How many subs
did you have back then? Because I applied for a review copy and they refused.
I had 3,500 then, but I was getting review copies from like 1,000 just because.
See, I had 1,000.
Well,
screw you guys.
I was piggybacking off Riders a lot of that because he would send me.
I tried to as well,
like links.
I tried to as well, and they didn't.
But also, I built up because I think I had been part of the Rehydrate Relief.
Yeah,
so
I feel like
I had a relationship with Purple Lamp then.
In my mind, I was a bigger part of it than I really was in reality, and I always want to be a bigger part of it. But I'm probably one of the smaller creators, like subs wise. So,
but yeah, so I'll just check out that I did get like a free copy for it, but like. I got a free copy for it, and then I didn't review it for another year. So by that stage, I'd already bought it 2 more times. So I apologized in the video. I was like, guys, I got this a year ago. I don't think this really affects me.
That's another thing that probably dampened my opinion was I got the Switch version at first, which is fine, but it's like playing it on the PS5 was a significantly different experience.
I played it on PC. PC, you can scale that thing up, and it looks fantastic, which is really good. That's going to give it some longevity. And then I played it on I 100%ed it on PlayStation 5 first time. But yeah, I honestly loved it. It was everything I'd been asking for. I was asking for improved movement. That was my big thing. I really wanted mobility to be improved combat. I was asking for that. And I was asking for more things to collect in the world. And it gave me like all those things. That's the original video we did together. I was asking for those like 3 big things.
Yeah. How much? I don't remember collectibles very well. Maybe I haven't gotten deep into it enough to know about all the collectibles.
I believe there's the coins, and then there's like another collectible or something with it, and then there's the actual like main completion stuff. Okay. So every time there's like these coins hanging around the world. It's been a year and a half since I've touched it.
I remember the coins,
remember,
but I was just thinking, did it have more than Battle for Bikini Bottom, or was it about the same? And I don't know.
Battle for Bikini Bottoms felt so pointless because your collectibles just let you buy more.
I guess that's fair. Yeah,
so it felt like I was just getting stuff to get another spatula.
And then the movie game introduced, like, collect these chests to get bonus, whatever.
Get the costume things, yeah. Honestly, I haven't replayed the movie game in probably like 5 years or anything
I don't think I've touched it since I did that video for you. Or that segment for your video back in the day.
Yeah. Was that the retrospective?
Like where we all talked about a different SpongeBob game.
That was a fun video. We should do that again. But yeah, so that's my perspective. I'm really excited for this because in my mind, I did not think at all we were going to get another game. I thought it was just going to be a complete and I was so angry about it because I was like, Purple Lamp have completely proven themselves to be the best developers THQ Nordic have for this space. They're doing the best stuff this series has ever had. When the show is at its weakest point, the movies are at their weakest point, they're still kicking it with these awesome games.
If anything, I was surprised that I was surprised they were able to make an original game in the first place.
Yeah, they wasn't tied in with a movie or anything.
That they would have done another remaster or something. It wasn't just that it was not tied in with a movie. I just assumed they would have gone, because I mean, like after Cosmic Shake, they went back and remastered or remade Epic Mickey. So it's like they're capable of doing both. And Rehydrated, I think, was like just the first step. They've clearly upgraded from there. And so the assumption will be this game's going to be even better than Cosmic Shake.
I don't think it's going to necessarily be
right.
Like I think Cosmic Shake is probably just about the peak. Like I can't think of anything necessarily negative. The only thing you would do would just be changing the genre, which would be doing an open world type game or something like that. Or a 3D platformer. I feel like that's the limit.
Here's what you do. You make Patrick the star of the game. Mm-hmm. And then you give him this small open world to explore. Just he can do whatever. Like he can just destroy crap, he can climb crap, he can drive around like it's GTA.
You reckon we could get away with selling that for $70? I reckon they could get away with it. I reckon no one would even complain. I reckon everyone would be very happy for that to be full price. Yeah, absolutely.
The full price there?
It was $100 here in Australia.
Holy
It was $100.
It was, I think it was $40 here, and even that felt like a lot.
$100 on PlayStation 5.
That was $20 worth of game. Sorry, like time wise, like there's like, I got into it thinking it was gonna be like a good 10 hours. It's like you see everything in like 2 to 3, in my opinion, but 4 is probably the max. Yeah. Like if you're doing everything.
I reckon you could 100% that game in 4 hours. Just do absolutely everything in 4 hours.
That game was such an anomaly, and I wonder how, because it felt, because it's about Patrick and they did the Patrick Star show. Was it like, how long was it being made? Was it like conceptualized when they were working on that show, or I don't know, but
don't either.
That's a whole other side of SpongeBob games that it's like
that's a whole other world, because you think originally that would have been like a DS game. That would have been not a mainline game, but now there's no other place for those like lesser games to go, because the Switch is the same as every other console. There's no lesser console.
Yeah, I love the concept of it. Not great execution, and also the models. Like SpongeBob looked like he was on drugs the whole time. That was not SpongeBob. The models in that game are weird.
General movement, like the stuff in the jellyfish fields where I have to grab the jellyfish to like be moved around. Worst game mechanic in my...
I don't remember. And then just like Squidward wants everyone removed from an area, so just smack everyone out of the way or whatever.
At least they're trying. At least they're doing different stuff.
It's fun for what it is, and I actually kind of like the music, like the Jellyfish Fields music in that game is pretty good.
I didn't hear any of it because I was listening to audiobooks.
Well, what I was gonna say about this new SpongeBob game is, part of me thinks it's just gonna be Cosmic Shake again with a different framing of story or whatever. I want them to improve it. I think they're capable of improving it past Cosmic Shake. I think Cosmic Shake had some wiggle room to do things maybe a little bit better. Yeah. But it also depends on what your taste is. The big Battle for Bikini Bottom fan isn't maybe going to like the same thing as the Creature from the Krusty Krab fan. So
here's my suggestion. I've got cooked up already. Here is what I think the game should be. And if it's not this, trash. Don't want it. Right. This is what they need to do it better. Okay. Everyone loves Sonic Unleashed.
Now they do. This is a whole other topic.
Undisputed love. Adoration. This
goes back into the ant dude conversation, but yeah, okay.
I want bigger areas. I want the levels to be like twice the size. I want some better mobility options, so you can have the horse, you can have a car or something like that, just for general movement around. I want every level to have 2 modes. A day mode, which is platforming, and then night mode, which is like you turn to a ghost at night because you're cursed by the Flying Dutchman at the start. At night, you're a ghost. And so you're floating around and you can pass through like walls that you couldn't pass through during the day. So it's like this Metroidvania type of thing of there's some areas you can only access at night. and that allows you to do different things. And maybe at night, going with that whole thing, at night it's more of a beat 'em up. So you're fighting other ghosts and all that stuff. So you're going to these other areas that's like in the movie game, there are these arenas. So the nighttime stuff is more of combat and all that. Daytime is platforming, collectibles, completing levels, and all that. And you can swap between the two. Even better, there is an in-game clock. So you have a time limit for how long you can be doing the platforming.
Crossing in Bikini Bottom.
You have a time limit for how long you can be doing the platforming stuff before it becomes nighttime again. And then you swap modes and you have to be doing different stuff in that time. So you're kind of progressing things in different areas bit by bit. But you can go back to SpongeBob's house and go to sleep, and you can swap between the times easier that way, but you have to travel back to SpongeBob's house each time. So it's not like a thing you can just immediately get rid of that. When you're out in the world, you're like, I have to complete this platforming mission in the next 5 minutes, otherwise I'm going to be switching modes and I can't keep going with it.
Speaking of which, not to bring it, it's a spiritual successor to Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Originally in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, the changing tents were not a thing. You had to always go back to SpongeBob's house to change your outfit.
Exactly, and everyone loved that. So let's factor that into the game here.
Well, I'm just saying that was what they planned to do. That was not what ended up happening. But
it's a spiritual successor. It's going to have these aspects.
What I was going to say is, I think you're partially onto something there. Because I think, I feel like this is information that you kind of can gather from the tease, so I'm comfortable talking about it. It seems to me like it's kind of gonna play more on the idea of Battle for Bikini Bottom, or maybe more like the movie game, the Battle for Bikini Bottom, where you have SpongeBob and Patrick, and because like
Patrick
both of them appear ghosts.
I don't want Ghost like floaty Patrick the entire time. I want Patrick to be a playable character.
And that's what I think is the case. I think there are times where SpongeBob's the ghost, and times where Patrick is the ghost. That's what it looks like. And so I think they will both have different abilities and will be able to access different areas, much like in Battle for Bikini Bottom and the SpongeBob movie game. How it would work, I don't know. It might just be more like different options for platforming and combat. I mean, like, they should really go back to the well of... The movie game had such, like, the upgrade system, like with the combat and everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, they
but
should
also
really
just
go
playing
back
to their strengths. Like, I'm not sure if you've gotten up to it yet, but the Glove World level and the Rock Bottom level,
I think
incredible.
Rock Bottom,
incredible. The music in those are fantastic. But the level design,
I got the Glove World or not. Which one was Glove World?
Glove World's the last one. The music, just search up when you have a chance the music for the Glove World one. It is the best music in any SpongeBob game
like a lot of the music
heard.
in that game. It's good.
They are so good with the spookier stuff. And if you have every level has 2 modes between, it's happy, normal, just platforming through downtown Bikini Bottom, and then switches to this Halloween, because I'm assuming they're probably going to release this thing at Halloween, switches to this other world, Halloween, the Dutchman's like curse the area and there are ghosts walking around.
That is the thing, is we really haven't heard anything about it, like, officially. Everyone was convinced it was going to be in this one of those Switch Directs, like either the Switch 1 Direct or the Switch 2 Direct. I never really thought that. Yeah, exactly. Well, Silk Song was in the sizzle reel, I guess. And Patrick was in a sizzle reel once, the Patrick Star.
Oh, was it? Yeah, he was.
And they also highlighted it in a different direct too. So it was in like multiple Nintendo Directs. So it's like, it's not impossible that it could have been in the Direct, but I was not expecting it. But it's like, when do we see this? Is this Summer Games Fest? Do they fully reveal this during the summer?
I think they've learnt from... I think one of the things that killed the hype for Cosmic Shake was the fact they announced it and then a year went by before they did anything. I reckon their goal... Because, like, they've done as well as they can game design, I think. Like, Cosmic Shake, there was nothing wrong with that should have impeded its sales so much. It was the advertising that went wrong. And I think they're going to have learnt from that. I think they're going to try and do some type of, like, media blitz of trailers out, games coming out in 2 months. We've got like YouTubers on. We've got like early live streams. We've brought what's his name? That speed. We've brought speedrunners back on like Shift. We've got all these guys doing stuff for it. We're doing like signings in New York. Like they're just going to go like hard for 2 months. Spend like 100 grand, like the
We're
majority of
gonna go
their
to the
budget.
stock market, and we're going to bring SpongeBob with us. And
We've got the new SpongeBob tariff, guys. And then I reckon that's going to be their goal, is to do like a media blitz, because doing the long run of announce it and wait a year, give you a little bit, wait 6 months, give you a little bit more, release game, did not work.
It worked for Battle for
game.
Bikini Bottom because everyone knew what it was. And also, I feel like part of the reason Cosmic Shake didn't perform as well is because it was a new game. And unfortunately, I think Writers made a video about this like a year or two ago, where it's like, people don't seem to really want the new thing so much as just what they already know. They want the comfort food. I think that's part of the reason why it performed less, is because it was new. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. I paid for it, but it was new, and I was like, I don't know if I like this, and I didn't play it. Yeah. And then I came back to it a couple years later and was like, oh, this is actually really good. So I don't know if they really put a lot in the advertising, it could do well. Knowing Nickelodeon,
yeah,
I don't
think they're going to put more money into it. I think they're just going to consolidate it all into like one big blast. But here's my other speculation: Rehydrated worked because they advertised to everyone. Cosmic Shake, they tried to advertise to kids.
Did they?
Cosmic, remember it?
To be honest with you, I don't remember much about Cosmic Shake's like advertising.
Remember with Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, they had all the they were advertising. They were involved in YouTubers who were doing the whole nostalgia thing, and their ads, they were focusing on. This was played by older people, and now he's handing the controller to his son, and the son's also playing the game. They were focused on that thing of like, we are advertising to two people here. We're advertising to the kid that played originally, and now their child as well. They didn't do that with Cosmic Shake. I reckon they're going to once again advertise to a slightly older crowd with this again. They're going to focus on the memes. They're going to focus on more towards that 20-year-old and the kid type of thing. I'm just basing it off like
they should.
They're not going to take a failure of literally dropping 1 million less. They sold 1 million less copies. They are not going to just like do the same thing again.
And maybe that's why it's taking longer. Maybe they're trying to figure out what they're even doing advertising wise, because it feels like with all the information that's actually out there about it, it's like you would think that they would want to get out ahead of it, but it seems like they're just kind of pretending like it isn't out there.
They're definitely holding fast, because when the Sandy movie entirely leaked on Twitter, just the entire movie, they completely folded. They released the trailer, and I think they released the movie on Netflix like a few days later. They completely folded.
I don't think they folded with Plankton, even though it leaked in the exact same way, didn't it?
I don't know as much about Plankton, but yeah, Plankton released.
I know it
normally
like exactly the same way, and
same way,
like year, like a solid, like maybe even more than a year before it actually officially got released.
So maybe they were like, that did not work at all with Sandy. We're just going to stay.
But the quality of Sandy just wasn't great. Like after there were people who didn't know anything about the leaks that I like follow on social media that were like, yeah, it just was not a good movie. Is what
I didn't watch it.
I didn't finish it. I watched a lot of it, and I thought it was all right. But as I got deeper into it, I was like, I don't know about this. So
I just come off the third movie, which I hated. I hated the third SpongeBob movie because it the entire thing. To be honest with you, I don't remember
anything about it. I watched it.
The entire movie was this buddy road trip, and the entire time Patrick and SpongeBob are arguing and making little comments to each other and picking at each other and pulling each other down. I'm like, that's not their relationship.
But
they
it's
don't
a road trip.
pick
That's
at
how it
each other and argue with each other. They're like,
listen, that's what happens on a road trip.
Just get angry. You don't have your Nintendo DS. You just get angry.
My Game Boy. I don't have AA batteries. They died. Help.
Speaking from experience.
99 bottles of Coke on the wall, and then 99 bottles of whatever you prefer to drink on the wall. Yeah, like I said, I don't remember much about the third movie. I watched it. I remember the advertising for it. They pushed it hard. It didn't make an impact. And also, was the guy in the movie supposed to be Neptune? I don't remember.
No, that was Poseidon.
Okay. It felt like they were just doing... Part of the problem with that movie is they were just doing things that the show and the other movies had already done. It felt like it was just kind of a retreadable ground. Except now 3D. And it was also really more of an advertisement for Camp Coral, let's be real.
That's right. That's what it was doing as well. That's the other reason why I hated it.
Yeah.
That was my other big issue.
And Camp Coral's all right. I've watched some of Camp Coral.
I haven't actually watched any of it. I've just seen
that
the
can be a
little,
whole
clips.
thing we do.
Yeah.
It's all right, but it has that same problem that modern SpongeBob has, where it's self-referential.
So I've done my spiel, but I reckon it's going to be Sonic Unleashed. What do you think we might see in this new game?
Well, like I said, I kind of mentioned it before. I think it's going to be Cosmic Shake 2, very, very much so. I feel like it's going to be very similar gameplay loop. And then, like we said, taking the two characters and giving them different abilities. I mean, obviously it's going to be ghosts and stuff, so it does make sense. Like you said, maybe it releases on Halloween. Although sometimes when things are clearly meant to, like, if you aren't releasing this on Halloween, you're making a mistake, and they don't do it. Like freaking Disney releasing the Haunted Mansion smack in the middle of summer or whatever the heck they did with that movie. That was weird. That was not a summer movie, Disney. And
or Salem's Lot releasing just randomly 2 years late. It was meant to release in cinemas, and then it disappeared for 2 years, and then just appeared on...
Sorry, I'm Salem's Lot. Keep going.
What?
How big is this file? Okay, this should go through. I just started kind of looking through some stuff, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's not... I don't know. You said you don't want to see too much, but you have to see this. You have to see this for one thing. It has nothing to do with Salem's Lot. We're talking about SpongeBob. What is Salem's Lot?
Stephen King book.
Who's Stephen King? I don't know that, man. I just saw that. I'm like, oh, that's a choice.
Are you sure this is actually what's coming out in this game? Are you sure this is actually real? Because that image of Patrick doing that with that expression is just a overused clip art that you can get as a PNG.
Yeah, but
anywhere.
Also a majority of, at least, I mean, I'm only speaking from the perspective of Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Most of what they had in their files was clip art. So I think a lot of times what happens is Nickelodeon sends them resources, and it's just clip art and backgrounds and stuff. So
the image you sent me is Patrick naked with a mermaid tail like sock on his head
in the bra.
Yeah, a mermaid man style. And then next to it, it's got reference images of every other time Patrick has been naked in the show. And a mermaid from some random episode.
I remember
Clash
that
of Titans, I think,
I was about
actually.
to say,
It's the mum of
Triton.
Mermaid. It's the mum of Triton, the other Titan character. Anyway.
So yeah, I don't know.
Thanks.
It's hard.
Thanks.
It's hard to predict. Outside of the generic, like, oh, it's going to be this.
There's one thing, though, that we haven't talked about yet. So we were looking at the cover art. This is a slight thing. We were debating whether this is real because there is a PlayStation Studios logo in the bottom right.
Right.
Which is the first-party publishing department of PlayStation. Which shouldn't be there unless this is a PlayStation exclusive. Right?
Yeah, you wouldn't. Why would PlayStation care, first of all? It doesn't seem like something
unless
they
they're
would
looking
invest
for a different publisher. But isn't THQ Nordic the publisher? There is no THQ Nordic logo on
there
the
could
cover art.
be more than one, like.
I thought THQ Nordic. THQ Nordic only had the rights for. I thought Bikini Bottom. So maybe they had like a two-game deal with Nickelodeon. And now the reason why this is taking so much longer is Nickelodeon's been searching around for a different publisher.
THQ Nordic not own Purple Lamp? I don't know.
I thought they were just working with Purple Lamp.
Maybe it was. I feel like they're a subsidiary. I could be wrong, but that is honestly, I think this game would be more successful on Switch. So, and that's not to say that
it is owned. It is owned by them.
Yeah, I thought so, and that's not to say, like, even if they're working with PlayStation Studios,
you can have multiple publishers.
Nintendo publishes Marvel games that are probably there was probably other publishers involved.
I wonder, this is entirely speculation, but because the previous game didn't do that well, maybe it would make sense that they were able to do it if a company like PlayStation came forward and said that they would pay them for it to be an exclusive.
Nintendo did with Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta wouldn't have continued if Nintendo hadn't done that.
what is this to PlayStation? Like a $2 million game? It's like, we'll pay $2 million to have an exclusive.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe this is just a placeholder. Maybe it fell through. Maybe that's why it's taking so long. Maybe there's, who knows? Who knows? I mean, rating pending.
That would be a big jump just in that world for it to be a PlayStation exclusive, because maybe that's why we haven't seen it in a Switch Direct yet or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That could make sense. It would be very weird because I feel like these games are made for the Switch in so many ways. It would be very weird because I feel like these games are made for the Switch in so many ways.
I will say, let's say PlayStation publishes it. That does not mean it's not going to be on Switch, because PlayStation
pray it would be on
Let Go
PC.
Horizon, which was very much a kid-targeted game, on the Switch, because they understand the Switch is where that game is.
You're right, yeah. No, you are right. Yeah, it's a kid's game. There's no way they're not going to be releasing
so
that
even
on the
if
Switch.
they are involved, it would still end up on Switch. Xbox, I don't know, but Switch, almost certainly. And if we're breaking apart this box art, Neptune's involved. Apparently, the Dutchman's involved, which we already knew. It looks like maybe they're both. Maybe SpongeBob and Patrick are caught in the middle of a battle between Neptune and the Flying Dutchman, because it looks like Neptune is destroying Bikini Bottom, like one part of Bikini Bottom, and then the Dutchman has set the Krusty Krab on fire. This is like uncharted territory for SpongeBob.
It is. It also has just describing it for people, it's got the Krusty Krab like floating away on like a little block of land.
It's I think Tears of the Kingdom.
Once again, they're going with that whole destroyed Bikini Bottom thing that they do for every single one of these games.
What else are they supposed to do?
Anything else, please.
There's going to be...
I'll pay you.
You're going to be able to skydive, obviously. It's going to be...
You can build a SpongeBob car.
I mean, they already copied Breath of the Wild with the pizza floaty.
Drop down your SpongeBob amiibo. You get the Krabby car. I would like the SpongeBob amiibo too.
SpongeBob with his ghostly Patrick companion. This is not the whole idea of a balloon. I'm sorry, that's one thing that I was like, why is he a balloon? Explain that to me, liberals. Explain that one, liberals. Sorry, that's something I say.
That's good.
It has nothing to do. I'll just be like at a store, and I'm just like, why is that like that? Checkmate, liberals.
I'll be doing that, but I was like, randomly, it was like the one thing science can't explain: why EB Games has so many damn Pokemon cards.
EB
Take
Games,
that, atheists.
Bro. I haven't thought. Does EB Games still exist where you are? Is that GameStop out there?
Yeah, it's bussin' over here.
Because it used to be like two separate things out here. Like EB Games used to be out here, but it was like it wasn't GameStop.
We've talked about this a million times. Australia doesn't have good internet. We still need to buy physical games.
Yeah. Fine, I'll move to Australia. You've convinced me. One of these days.
Stop selling. Come on, sell down.
One of these days you're gonna come here or I'm gonna go there. We gotta meet up sometime. Outside of this game though, like, do they keep making SpongeBob games after this? Does the success of this game hinge?
What? That's one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast. I won't be doing these other videos. I really want to promote these because that's something I talked about in the Cosmic Shake game. I love that these games are coming out. And I was like, as if I was a kid, like, these Cosmic Shake is such a better game than the movie game or Battle for Bikini Bottom. I wish I had that as a kid. Like, kids now are so lucky to be getting that type of stuff.
That's an opinion.
I'm sticking with it. I would have loved to have been having this type of stuff, and it's so good that there are kids. Like, there are so few good kids games coming out now. Like, so much of it is dominated by the Fortnites, by all that type of stuff. Like,
the idea of the licensed game, like the cheap budget license, it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And Nickelodeon either does their crappy, like all the Nicktoons meshed into one, or SpongeBob.
Yeah.
They don't do like I kept hoping for a Rugrats Royal Ransom remake when the reboot was being done, because that was the only time it made sense. But I don't think they think anything else can sell except for SpongeBob.
But the more that stuff does well, and there has been a new Rugrats game as well. I haven't looked into the sales of that.
Oh, I forgot about that. I think that did do pretty well because it was like...
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the sales either, but I know a lot of people talk about it.
And
I need to buy it.
A hint for the next episode, we're going to be talking about Rugrats All Grown Up, which shocks me every time, is the highest viewed premiere of all time on Nickelodeon. 11 million people tuned in to watch that event.
I was one of them.
Really?
Yeah. So it's weird. It was 2001. I would have been 4, but I vividly remember like the advertising lead up.
Hell yeah. I tuned in and watched the Jimmy Timmy Power Hours.
I never watched those because of other reasons that we'll talk about someday. I wasn't allowed to watch either of those shows. So.
No, these 3D big head characters.
Big teeth, big head.
Satanic.
They say Jimmy's got the biggest head. They're wrong. My head is bigger.
My head's bigger. I don't like being challenged on this. Makes me uncomfortable. I'm smart.
But yeah, I wish. We this episode was about the future of SpongeBob games, but the future of Nickelodeon games in general. I mean, and the future of licensed games in general. Like Disney has started to finally come back from where they let Disney Infinity destroy their gaming everything, and they're only just now finally starting to heal from that.
I think Nickelodeon also went through a similar phase in the early 20s where it just fell apart for them. I think they got burned a lot from that.
Well, it was a lot of
why I am
Plankton's Robotic Revenge and Hero Pants. It was a lot of crap.
Yeah, but I think they're starting to learn the successes. That's why I want these things to be successes, because that's what gives us the chance to get a Rugrats Royal Ransom reboot, a remake. It's the chance to get a Jimmy Neutron Attack of the Twonkies remake. Like, stuff like that.
Twonkies.
Would be
I want a
crazy.
Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius remake, please.
I want Jimmy Neutron versus Jimmy Negatron, the funniest game known to man.
I need to, realistically, the only Jimmy Neutron, the closest I got to playing Jimmy Neutron games were Nicktoons Unite.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I played a little bit of the Genius one when I was making the Big Sky video, but because initially I was thinking I was going to talk about that game, and then I realized I hated it with every fiber of my being.
It's a rough game.
And part of the problem was I died, and then it erased all my progress because I died, and I was like, well, I don't want to do all that again. So I did not go
liberals.
Back. Checkmate liberals. Thanks, liberals, for erasing my save data or whatever. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius for the GameCube. Jeez.
Every time. But yeah, I think that's about everything we have to really talk about this cover art that we can't even show. I would say I am optimistic and I'm really excited. You're not so.
I'm not excited. I just am I was the same with Cosmic Shake, and ultimately I think Cosmic Shake's a good game, but it's an unknown quantity. And like I said, it's for some people, including myself, sometimes it's hard to get excited for an unknown quantity. Especially when the Nickelodeon's track record has been hit and miss with what Purple Lamp hasn't necessarily.
I feel like it's not an unknown quantity because we know Purple Lamp and they have gotten better each time. That's my thinking, at least.
I just know it's going to take, unless it looks amazing, it's going to take me a minute to be like, yes, this is good. I don't know.
Yeah. And you're right, it's probably going to be more of the same, and the Ghost stuff is probably just going to be a button you press on your controller to swap into Ghost.
I don't know if it'll be a button or if they'll do a bus stop like they did in the Heavy Iron games, or a porta potty.
They are still very focused on this formula that was made on the PS2 games.
Well, that was the whole.
They haven't gone beyond that formula
concept, yeah. And I don't know how you I didn't know how you evolved Mario Kart. Turns out everything's just you do it. So it's I don't know how you evolve SpongeBob, but they could come up with something. Maybe it is.
That's what I've always said. That's what I've always said is I don't think the PS2 games and 3D platform stuff is the correct genre for SpongeBob even. I always think that something like a type of adventure game would always be a better option. Something more along the lines, something more comedy and voice acting. Point and click. I don't think 3D platforming, especially the way that it currently is the best way to do a SpongeBob game. I still don't think that it is.
I don't agree, but there's never not going to be an opportunity for me to be proven wrong is the thing.
I'm never going to have the opportunity. I'm talking listen, guys, get Naughty Dog in, do a story game, do something like
You're not going to get a SpongeBob SquarePants visual novel dating simulator. Like,
day in the life.
Have we ever talked about Tron?
Tron Legacy?
Just Tron in general, but yeah, Tron Legacy. I'm a big fan of Tron. And they started making games, but they're like, the one they released the most recently is a visual novel, which is fine, but it's like, after so many years, it's like, I want a big epic, like something, but instead I get a visual novel, and now I'm getting, they're releasing another one by the same studio, but it's like a isometric. It looks like the DS version of the Tron Legacy video game to me. That style of game.
Right.
And it's not. It could be good, but it's like they're very much like indie games. They're not like the big AAA Tron game that I wish I could have.
It's what confuses me because they always say making a video game is more expensive than ever. Making a video game is easier than ever. You could pay 3 smart people for 2 years to develop something in Unity, and it would be better than anything
I genuinely believe AAA gaming is going to crash. I don't know if it goes away forever, but
I feel like something like this, the SpongeBob games, where they're these AA platformers, are perfectly reasonable.
Well, the PS2 era, I mean, that's all it really was, and it was successful. I mean, there were bigger games than others. It's like there was GTA, San Andreas, and all these bigger ideas, but like they all had to work within the constraints of what they were. And now that the technology's ballooned, everything else is ballooned, but it doesn't have to be that way. Nah. Like, you can even make it look graphically pleasing, but if you just scale it back a little, it doesn't need to be 100-hour, like, multi-character adventure through Japan, Ubisoft.
Astrobot won Game of the Year.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how much that game cost to make, but there's no way Sony was expecting that to be as successful as it was.
There's no way it cost more. There's no way it cost half as much as the latest Horizon Zero Dawn game.
You could stop releasing The Last of Us for the 5th time. Yes, they announced the dual pack. You could stop releasing Last of Us and like just people talk about indie gaming, but it's not just indie gaming. Like just smaller scale titles in general need to become the focus again.
That's why I love Remedy. Remedy makes some of the best stuff. In like they make Control, Alan Wake 2. Quantum Break. They're lower budget games. They're just on the bracket of being AAA games.
I was about to say they have the outward appearance of being AAA.
Yeah, they're smaller games. They're like 10 to 15 hours at most. And if they get like people behind it and people are buying heaps of it, they do DLC, so they expand it later. But they just find publishers that are happy to like cover the cost, and they smash it out.
And if they just take these licenses and like Disney's doing with these Tron games, they're letting an indie studio make these Tron games, and it seems to be going well. They are doing another one, so it's like, and like a lot of my favorite games are indie games, like Return of the Obra Dinn. What's it called? Hypnospace Outlaw is the weirdest game. It's like exploring. Have you ever heard of this game?
No.
You explore a fictional version of the internet circa 19s, like early 2000s, like, and you're solving mysteries and looking for things within this old school version of the internet. And it's like, it doesn't sound like it should be fun, but it's very entertaining.
Yeah.
What are other games? Celeste is a good one, I guess. And
and also like all these new card games that are coming out that are super popular, like Inscription, Balatro, all this type of stuff. That stuff's crazy. We've been watching, I know you don't know Markiplier, but all like the Lethal Company style games. They've just done one called Pilgrim.
That's the other thing too, is a lot of the most popular like phenomenon games are like pretty basic. Like the one that's blowing up right now is called Schedule 1. It's like a drug simulator.
And it looks like bloody Unturned. It looks like a Minecraft clone from like 2010.
I mean, even just look at Minecraft. Like that's the biggest phenomenon of all time, and it started out as an indie game.
Yeah. So maybe the route for them isn't doing these, like, doing the occasional games like this where they're these bigger budget ones, but doing stuff that are like point-and-click adventures. My wife's been playing a heap of different modern point-and-click games. They're having huge. They're doing like crowdfunding and stuff, and getting heaps of support by them. People love that genre still. It's not going to sell 1 million copies, but if you've got 5 people making it, and you get Tom Kenny in for a day to record the lines, it's not going to cost the amount that 5 million people need.
Right. And it occurred to me, like, do another side. Do with SpongeBob what you did with Rugrats recently. Do a side scroller, like, or do a 2D SpongeBob game like we were talking about earlier. Like, there's so much potential, and all the companies see are what makes the most money. And
but what makes the most money is the biggest risk stuff.
And
that's not a smart move,
right?
Either.
I was gonna say, like, they're only looking at it from the perspective of giant game that you can, like, we want to be the next Fortnite, we want to be the next whatever. And it's like, if you were to take the giant budget you made for one game that could fail miserably and make a bunch of smaller games that realistically are probably going to make far more than they cost to create, like, the industry would be much more healthy, I think. I mean, the average consumer maybe isn't going to be as, like, the Madden player that just plays Madden, or the Call of Duty player that just plays Call of Duty. Maybe they're not going to care. But you don't have to be the next Fortnite. You don't have to be the next whatever. And I'm concerned with Nintendo, because even, like, I get that they have to improve, because Nintendo is kind of the company that has just done a little bit of the same thing. But I'm a little bit concerned that their games are starting to get like not everything has to be open world. Mario Kart World is probably gonna be fine, but, like, I don't understand the sentiment that every series needs to go open world.
So they just, I ran some quick numbers. So they most likely made about, just from consoles, about $10 million from so my numbers are all wrong. Bikini Bottom Rehydrated sold about 1.7 million copies. It was something about $60 a copy. And this is on console. This isn't regarding, like, PC or anything. So what's that? That's around $65 million or so. Am I correct?
I can't math.
Yeah, about that. Let's just say that. 60 million. You divide that in half, you've got $30 million. You can spread that over, like, $10 million to each game. If you've got a team of, like, 5 people, and this is Nickelodeon doing it, so they already have the licensing rights and all that, you spread that over that. Then you have the other half of that for just the advertising of those. Because you don't need it to be the biggest thing if you can advertise it and just, like push it everywhere.
The budget for Revenge of the Flying Dutchman was $2 million. Which
so
was...
given inflation, but also, like, the tools for that now are way different. You don't need a team of coders.
With inflation, it was actually still only about, like, $3 million based on what I last looked. But I mean,
that's
inflation
right.
is
It was
constantly
early 2000s.
changing.
That's right. So it's not as long ago as I was thinking. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they were also, like, dealing with clunky technology. Now everything's just Unreal or Unity or whatever.
And what were their wages? Their wages wouldn't have been
That was
the
other thing, too, is, like, a lot of the money that was allocated to this budget for this game just ended up going into the voice acting for the game. Like, the employees were getting very little of this budget, which was kind of a whole thing.
Yeah. You pay the employees $90,000 a year, something like that. I don't know what's reasonable for a developer, but, like, $90,000 a year over 3 years for a small team. That's only a tiny portion of the budget. I was just talking. We don't understand game development, but I'm just saying, like, there are different methods.
My last thought, I guess, is, like, I feel like they're taking this concept that we're kind of describing and applying it to the remasters and the remakes. They're just flipping old stuff to make a quick buck, where they could just, like, make something new for a smaller amount of money that you could also, like, nothing new can be small, but you can make all the older stuff and just re-release it and people eat it up. Something's gotta give. And this became a whole commentary about the gaming industry in general. But
well, especially with Nintendo charging way more for their games, and it's just like something has to give, and whether that's Nintendo or whether that's the entire, like, audience. Like, I'm comfortable to pay that much for Donkey Kong. I don't know that many 12-year-olds.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the parents aren't gonna, like, be like, okay, I'll buy. Like, my mom like when she buys us like birthday presents or Christmas presents, she's not paying $80 for anything. Like
no. So now kids are going from, if they've got a Switch 2, they're going from maybe 2 or 3 games a year to probably 1.
If even
so that's
that,
a different.
Honestly, I mean, yeah.
Or now they're not getting Nintendo like
right, exactly.
Originals.
They're not getting first party. They're getting the budget games.
So it's like things have to change, man.
And now I'm sure GTA is going to be $100 or whatever. It's like
GTA is going to be like $150 here in Australia.
Oh yeah, I am not even thinking of it from the perspective of you who's in Australia where everything's always more expensive.
GTA is going to be like half someone's weekly wage.
And I mean, we're just at least here in America, like just the economy is a nightmare. I gross like 30-something thousand a year. I net like $20,000 a year right now. I could not exist if I didn't have family members who are able to help me live. The entire idea of an $80 game, it's like, I love games, I love Nintendo, but at a certain point I can't afford Nintendo anymore. I can save up for months and months and months and maybe get one eventually, and that's what I'm going to try to do. But I'm not going to be able to pre-order, even though I don't even know when pre-orders are starting here.
That's true. Yeah, in America it hasn't started yet. That's right.
It like they had a date and then they were like, never mind, because politics. But yeah.
But then you've got stuff like this, which like this game will cost $70. Like it'll be full priced.
That's my question though. Is do they full price it, or do they think
Cosmic Shake?
It would have been
released.
It probably would have been full price at $60. But my question at this point is, do they keep it at $60 as a? Because actually, Cosmic Shake might have been less than $60.
I think Cosmic Shake was $50 for you. I feel like I paid like $80.
Yeah, I think it was slightly less. I think it was like $50. So it's like, my guess is it's gonna be. It's still. I think it's gonna remain. I think it's gonna be a $60 game probably.
I think
which
it
would have been
up
full
as well.
price a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it will have gone up from what it was before, but I think it still won't be.
It will be the equivalent, basically.
Yeah. Because this isn't going to be releasing on the previous generation, so they're going to be factoring that in, that they're dealing with a smaller user base. There's no way that they're releasing this for PlayStation 4.
Probably not. I mean,
we're a long ways on from PlayStation 4.
There's a lot of games that they're still releasing some games for PlayStation 4. They are unwilling to leave it behind because partially because of shortages, but partially because a lot of people just haven't upgraded. And I was shocked.
And this is the reason to do it. This is the exclusive.
Exactly. I was shocked that they put Jedi Survivor on PS4. I'm surprised that game even runs on PS4.
Wow.
They made a port of it. They downgraded it. I don't know how it looks. I haven't looked into it. But that game is doing a lot. And it ran rough when it first released. On
my friend BJ got it on PC, I think. And
PC was the worst.
He ran fine. He said it ran fine. And I was like,
I heard it was high-end PCs that it was like the worst. Like the high-end graphics cards. I don't know what BJ has.
Yeah,
but
he was, I think it's a 3060 he was running, so it would have been just 1080p medium graphics.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think the PS5, it ran all right, but it still had its issues. I don't know how that game got on PS. You would assume this one was at least. I don't think Cosmic Shake was designed from the ground up to be a PS5 game. This one probably is. So maybe that's like the changes. Maybe there's more horsepower. Maybe it's graphically, but it's SpongeBob. I don't know if that matters.
The textures will be texturing.
He's gonna look like a real sponge.
And considering the release, this will probably be on Switch 2 as well.
Oh, definitely.
And there's no point. Or Switch originals can't play Switch 2 games. So will they do 2 versions for Switch, or will they just release on Switch 1?
It might be
Switch
like
2 upgrade.
The Cosmic Shake was with PS4 and PS5, where they kind of made a PS5 version later on.
Yeah,
because they didn't launch.
Or they might
the
release
PS5
an upgrade version.
Yeah,
I know. I was so upset about that.
And then I don't remember. I think it was a year later when they were like, "Here's a patch to make it a PS5 version."
Anyway, we'll call it there. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. A little discussions about a game you can't see, but you can probably Google it and find it if you really want to. It's not that much more than what we've talked about. Oh my god. This is what everyone's really here for.
Don't cancel us, THQ Nordic. We love you.
Please.
We want
Free stuff.
We're not. Everything we just said was a lie. Haha. Pranked you.
We're not like those other YouTubers. We don't show this stuff.
I'm not like other girls.
That's why we're different. That's why you should give us free copies of the games. And
yeah.
Well,
obviously, this podcast it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. So, canned bread. We're huge. Biggest podcast. Look out, Joe Rogan. We're coming for you. Nickelodeon podcast. What's it called? Bikini Bottom Inquirer. We're inquiring about Bikini Bottom. Sea bears, are they real? And how do we stop? Take that, liberals. Checkmate.
I watched Recess, no stressing then. The kids next door always playing, messing with each other in the back tree house, chilling and possibly fighting evil, jerking off to Kim and having fun again with my cartoon friends. No classmates anyway, to hell with them, cause I was hanging with who I thought was cool. All the